At my mother's funeral, the butler suddenly received evidence that my fiancé, Daniel Foster, had been cheating. The woman Daniel had been supporting in secret had already given birth to his child. Daniel didn't offer any explanation. He simply said in a flat tone, "Take care of the funeral first." The next day, he didn't come to offer condolences. He only made a call and said, "I'm staying at the postpartum center to look after her. I won't be attending the funeral." When I didn't respond, he sighed and added, "Don't worry. What happened between me and her was just an accident. I have no intention of breaking off our family's engagement. She just wants to keep the baby as a keepsake. But I'm still the father. I can't just leave him. After the wedding, I'll stay at her place to care for the baby on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, and go home on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays." I clenched my hands so tightly they trembled, my eyes reddening as I smiled. "Daniel Foster, we're breaking up. The engagement is off." He scoffed. "Your mom just died, and you're throwing a tantrum?" I hung up the phone without hesitation. Standing in front of Daniel's longtime rival, Ryan Liu, I looked him in the eye. "Marry me. Help me bring the Foster family down. Are you in or not?" A flicker of shock crossed Ryan's eyes. His usually composed face flushed slightly, and after hesitating, he said, "Our family has a tradition. We only marry once. If you become my wife, you'll be mine for life." I thought he would refuse, and as I turned away in disappointment, he grabbed my hand firmly. His once arrogant expression now held solemnity. "Emily Zhou, think carefully. Once we're married, there's no divorce." I smiled faintly and nodded. "All right. No divorce." Ryan Liu was the man my mother had chosen for me. His character, background, and personality had all stood the test of time. If I hadn't fallen in love with Daniel, I would have married him long ago. The funeral was complicated, and Ryan helped me manage everything. He worked tirelessly for more than half a month. During that time, Daniel didn't call me even once. Over those 2 weeks, every time I opened my social media, I saw sweet photos of Daniel and Lana Han, both smiling brightly, holding their baby, making heart signs. The captions read things like, "My dearest family." I let out a bitter laugh, unable to suppress the sting in my chest. Just then, Daniel called. His voice sounded lazy, casual. "The funeral's over, right? Want to come to the center and see the baby?" Looking at my reflection in the mirror, dark circles under my eyes, I replied calmly, "Daniel Foster, we've broken up." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds before he murmured as if talking to himself. "All right. Lana's been a bit depressed after giving birth. She probably wouldn't be happy to see you anyway." The tears I had been holding back for over half a month finally rolled down my cheeks. Eyes red, I laughed bitterly. "Daniel," I said, "we're done. Are you deaf?" He paused for a second before letting out a mocking laugh. "Emily, you've been with me for 5 years. You're practically used up. Who would even want you now?" "I told you, the baby was just an accident. Why are you still clinging to this?" I said nothing. On the other end, I heard something crash onto the floor. Daniel sneered, "Fine, let's break up. I'll wait for the day you come crawling back, begging me to take you back." He ended the call harshly. When I got to my apartment, I found that the entry code had been changed. I tried calling Daniel, but he didn't pick up. I had no choice but to check into a random hotel. When I woke up, my social media feed pushed a live stream from the postpartum center. Lana was cheerfully interacting with viewers, her face glowing with joy. Daniel sat beside her, gazing at her dotingly, the kind of warm, gentle look I once believed was reserved only for me. The live stream had been going on for nearly 5 hours, and the comments flooded in, so jealous of the streamer. Staying in a $50,000 a month postpartum center with her loving husband. So lucky. Where can I find a husband like that? Before taking over the Foster family business, Daniel had been a soldier. He hated being in front of a camera. When I asked him for a photo together, he'd coldly reject me. But now, for Lana, he was live streaming to a national audience. Lana smiled at the camera and responded to her fans, "He's just really sweet and thoughtful." A sharp, stinging sweetness surged in my chest. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes with a forced smile. Daniel Foster had never been a patient or thoughtful partner to me. I still remembered the time I asked him to go to the movies with me. After begging and pleading for a long time, he finally agreed to go with me. But in the end, During a movie that lasted just 2 hours, he slept through an hour and a half of it. When he woke up, he rubbed his temples impatiently and said, "Spending time with you is such a waste." He knew how to be gentle. He could spend an entire day with Lana Han. He just didn't know how to be gentle with me. Daniel Foster must have recognized my username on social media because he called me. "You've got half an hour to come to the postpartum center and take your mom's belongings." When I arrived, the live stream had already ended. Lana greeted me with a bright, cheerful smile. "Emily, you came to see me." I ignored her and walked straight up to Daniel, holding out my hand calmly. "Give it to me." The smirk on his face faded, his expression darkened. "Lana spoke to you. Are you mute now?" I forced a smile and looked at Lana. "Congratulations, Miss Han, you successfully seduced my fiancé. Gave birth to his child. I suppose the next step is becoming Mrs. Foster." Daniel slammed the teacup in his hand to the floor. "If you can't say anything decent, shut your mouth." Suddenly, Lana clutched her stomach and cried out in pain, tears splashing to the floor. Daniel immediately panicked. "Lana, what's wrong? Where does it hurt?" Tears filled Lana's eyes as she turned to me, lips trembling. "Emily, I never meant to ruin your relationship with the vice president. It's just, the doctor said this might be my only chance to be a mother. Don't worry, once my recovery is over, I'll leave. I swear I won't cling to him." Then she looked over at the baby in the cradle and choked out, "Mommy's sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry you were born without a father. Mommy didn't mean for this to happen. Please forgive me." She sobbed as if her whole world had fallen apart, her grief overwhelming. Daniel turned to me, his gaze cold and full of blame, as if I were the one who had hurt her. "You must be thrilled to make her cry like this." I was born in a military family. I could see through such a pathetic performance instantly. That awful acting only entertains someone like you. My attitude pushed Daniel over the edge. He yanked the pocket watch my mother left me from his neck and raised it in the air, ready to smash it. My eyes widened. "No, stop, don't." But he didn't. He hurled it across the room with full force. It hit the floor, shattering instantly. Broken glass and twisted metal scattered everywhere. As I stepped back in panic, my foot caught the sharp edge of the table. I fell, slamming hard against the ground. Pain shot up from my bones, sharp and unforgiving, forcing a scream out of me. Daniel let out a cold laugh. "That's what you get for running your mouth. Now get out of here. Don't play the victim." Lana cast me a fake, concerned glance. "Emily, get up. The vice president will think you're faking the fall." Grinding my teeth, I glared at her coldly. Seeing me still glaring, Daniel barked at Lana. "Help her up." Lana handed me a pile of dirty laundry and said with false sweetness, "Change out of these. Go wash them before you leave, and make sure you hand wash them." I shook her off. "Why should I?" Daniel's face darkened, his tone turning ice cold. "Because you just bullied Lana. You owe her an apology." I stood up despite the searing pain in my foot, forcing myself upright. "In your dreams." A storm of fury passed through Daniel's eyes. He shoved me into the bathroom and slammed the door shut, locking it from the outside. "You're not getting out until you clean everything properly." "Daniel Foster, you're imprisoning me." I twisted the doorknob hard, yelling at the top of my lungs, "Let me out." I pounded on the door, the sound echoing in the narrow room. Outside, there was only silence. My hands burned from the impact, my foot throbbed in agony. The stench of spoiled milk and vomit filled the air. I collapsed to my knees, broken and exhausted. Through the closed door, I heard Lana's fake, concerned voice. "Vice President, won't Emily be mad when she gets out? You're being too harsh." Daniel sneered. "So what if she's mad? I'll just coax her. Besides, this whole mess was her fault to begin with." "If she doesn't change that spoiled little princess attitude of hers," Daniel said, "who's gonna put up with her once she marries into a wealthy family?" His family had served in the military for generations. If the Foster family hadn't needed an heir, my mother would have never pushed him to marry a rich heiress. "She's useless," he scoffed. "All she knows is how to spend money." Lana Han feigned concern. "Vice President, if you talk about Emily like that, won't she break up with you?" The room fell silent for a long while before Daniel finally replied, his voice laced with arrogance. "She won't. She's just a pampered rich girl with no right to inherit anything. The Foster family is her best option. Besides, she loves me like crazy." Honestly, if I told her to die for me, she'd probably do it. I clutched my chest tightly, feeling like I couldn't breathe. I never thought I'd live to hear Daniel Foster say something so cruel about me. My family, the Zhaos, had been merchants for generations, often targeted by criminal groups. 6 years ago, my mother and I were traveling abroad when we were attacked. One of the kidnappers held a gun to her temple. I screamed until my throat was raw, thinking I was about to lose her. Just when all hope seemed lost, a sharp burst cut through the air. The attacker dropped dead instantly. Daniel had fired the shot. He was in uniform, broad-shouldered, lean, decisive. He saved us. I first saw his face in a military jeep. His features were sharp, his nose high and proud. I fell for him at first sight. For an entire year, I pursued him relentlessly. Eventually, he gave in and agreed to be with me. We were together for 5 years, during which I followed his every word, treated him with all the sincerity I had. And now, all that effort, all that love, earned me this betrayal and mockery. What a joke. The bathroom door suddenly opened. Daniel stood there, saw me crouched on the floor, pale as a ghost, and pulled me up roughly. All I asked was for you to wash some clothes. Are you putting on this poor little me act for sympathy? The acid in my stomach rose to my throat. I swallowed it back, fighting the urge to vomit, as I looked around for the belongings my mother had left me. The pocket watch was already shattered, broken into pieces. I picked them up one by one. From behind me, Daniel's voice came again. Once Lana finishes her recovery, we'll get married. After that, she'll live with us. Lana gave me a grateful smile. Emily, thank you for accepting me and the baby. I'll always be thankful. I didn't have the time or patience for his nonsense. I turned to Daniel and said, there's no need. We're not going to be living together. I'm taking the clothes, so give me the door code. I'll have the movers come get the rest. He rattled off a string of numbers, watching me with thinly veiled disdain. All this drama, and in the end, you'll still come crawling back. Lana tugged at his sleeve, her voice delicate. Vice President, I think I left something in the room. Daniel's eyes flickered. He and Lana got into my car. We'll go with you, just in case you take something you shouldn't. It wasn't until we arrived home that I understood why Daniel insisted on tagging along. The living room was a mess. Scattered across the sofa were adult toys clearly meant to please a man. The dining table was set with erotic candles. The bedroom reeked of lust. There were handcuffs mounted at both the head and foot of the bed. While I had been busy handling my mother's funeral all alone, Daniel and Lana had been indulging themselves without restraint. I walked into the dressing room and found jewelry tossed carelessly on the floor. Several Hermes bags were missing from the shelves. Lana followed behind me, smiling smugly. Emily, are you missing anything? She was dying to see me lose it, but I only gave her a faint smile. A mistress will always be a mistress. All you know is how to sneak around and steal. Rage flashed across Lana's eyes. She suddenly let out a dramatic gasp, clutched her stomach, and collapsed to the floor. Emily, I haven't finished my recovery yet. How could you hit me? Daniel burst in and rushed to her side, helping her up in a panic. Daniel lost it. He slapped me hard across the face. Emily Zhou, you've been acting like a spoiled princess for too long. Arrogant and out of control. He didn't hold back. My face swelled up immediately, the sting burning deep into my skin. My temples throbbed violently from rage. I nearly lost all reason, but I didn't hit him back. He didn't believe me. He grabbed me by the arm, dragged me out of the walk-in closet, and threw me to the floor. Get out of here. Go crawl back to the Zhou family. Come back only when you've realized your mistake. All my fury slowly turned into humiliation and unwillingness to back down. I rushed up and slapped Lana Han across the face hard. Daniel was livid. He raised his hand, ready to strike me again. I stared him down, gritting my teeth. That was me. I hit her. With that, I turned and walked away, my eyes once again filling with tears like some spineless fool. As I stepped out the door, the skies opened up and heavy rain came pouring down, drenching me instantly. I curled up on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. After a long time, I realized the rain was no longer falling on me. I turned and saw Ryan Liu standing there, holding an umbrella over me. I had no idea when he'd arrived. He reached out a hand to me, his voice filled with worry. He didn't even try to hide. Emily, let me take you home. Back at the Liu family estate, I stared at the familiar courtyard and the housekeeper I'd known since childhood. Memories of the past came flooding back. Ryan's mother and my mom had been best friends. They arranged our betrothal when we were still children. But back then, I fought with my mother all the time. And because of that, I resented Aunt Lou and even the young Ryan. After middle school, I went to Milan to study art, while Ryan was sent to the UK to study business management. More than a decade later, we reunited at my mother's funeral. I was lost in thought when Aunt Lou came over holding a bowl of ginger soup. She pulled me into her arms, both anxious and heartbroken. Ryan was just too careless this time. Letting you get caught in such heavy rain like that, I'll scold him properly for you later. Confused, I looked at Ryan. He quickly turned his head, avoiding my eyes and coughing awkwardly. I'll go get you a change of clothes. After he left, Aunt Lou smiled warmly and handed me the ginger soup. Ryan already told us, you two are getting married soon. You should start calling me Mom, you know. I've been waiting for this day for so long. She patted my hand. We'll keep the wedding date your mother originally chose. No need to change it. The date my mother had picked, it was supposed to be for my wedding with Daniel. As the warmth of the ginger soup spread through my body, my eyes began to sting. The next day, Ryan brought over everything we needed for the wedding and laid it out in front of me to review. I thought the short timeline would make it impossible to prepare, that we might even have to reuse the old wedding plans. But Ryan had already taken care of everything. I didn't have to lift a finger. Gradually, I started to feel how much he valued me. Meanwhile, I had to practically beg Daniel for 5 years just to get him to agree to marry me. Every detail of the wedding had been managed by me alone. The difference between love and indifference couldn't have been more obvious. Thinking of that, I picked up the phone and called the wedding planning team I'd hired before. Cancel the wedding. The next second, I got a call from Daniel's mother. Emily Jo, has your brain been soaked in vinegar? How could you be so impulsive? Just canceling a wedding like that? What did Daniel do to upset you now? Can't you just hold it in a little? With your temper, only someone like Daniel would still want you. Nobody in the foster family is going to tolerate you forever. In the past, I'd thought Daniel's mother was just harsh with words but soft at heart. I thought she actually liked me. But after hearing what Daniel said back at the postpartum center, I realized I had been naive. So I responded calmly, Auntie, Daniel and I have broken up. Of course the wedding should be canceled. Broken up? So he upset you again? Then apologize. As a woman, can't you learn how to smooth things over with your husband? I don't want to hear anything more about his moods. I said coldly and hung up. The next day, Ryan and I went to the bridal boutique to try on wedding gowns. He took a call for a meeting midway and told me to go ahead and try on the dress first. I slipped into the wedding gown Ryan Lou had specially flown in from Italy and stood before the mirror, a smile spreading across my face. Just then, I heard a sound behind me. I turned around, still smiling, and asked instinctively, Does it look good? To my surprise, I met Daniel Foster's eyes. There was a flicker of surprise in them, but my smile faded immediately. Then I noticed Lana Han walking out of another fitting room. Daniel's expression turned cold in an instant. He strode over and yanked off my veil without a word. Unbelievable, Emily Zhao. You're the one who said you weren't getting married, and now you're sneaking into a wedding gown behind my back. Playing hard to get, having fun with that little game, huh? His movements were rough. In one swift pull, the pin holding the veil tore across my face, slicing the skin open. Blood streamed down my cheek, staining the $10 million gown and spreading in a dark, blooming patch. I frowned, the pain sharp as I winced. Daniel Foster, I didn't come here because of you. Lana immediately stepped in, eyes glistening with false tears. Emily, I had no intention of marrying the vice president. I just wanted to take a wedding photo for the memories. Daniel scoffed. Why are you even bothering to explain to someone like her? He turned back to me. I used to think you were just overly dramatic. That's why I kept tolerating you again and again. But now you're even making a scene about our wedding? Fine, we won't get married. Happy now? Then he grabbed at the dress, trying to rip it off me, and dragged me out of the boutique. I struggled fiercely. He grabbed my waist and in front of everyone, tried to pull the gown off my body. That's when Ryan Liu arrived. He landed a swift kick to Daniel's side, knocking him down, then caught me around the waist to steady me. She's my wife. This wedding dress is hers. You're just an ex who should have stayed dead in the past. Stop trying to steal the spotlight. Daniel gritted his teeth and stood back up, glaring at Ryan's hand on my waist with utter contempt. Emily Zhou, so now you're bringing another man to back you up? You're not just bold, you're out of control. Lana, pretending to be flustered, chimed in. Emily, please make him leave. If you keep acting like this, the vice president will get upset. As if he hadn't cheated first, had a baby, and paraded it around like a trophy. Now he dared to call me the unreasonable one? I clenched my fists, my eyes locked on Daniel. Get out. For the sake of the time you saved my mom years ago, I didn't make the Foster family pay for what you did. But that doesn't mean I don't care. Daniel held Lana tightly and let out a mocking laugh. You care? Emily Zhou, I'll give you one last chance. Accept Lana, let's get married, and live a good life. Or walk away, and don't come near me again. He was still convinced I was the same fool who once adored him blindly, who came and went whenever he called. Ryan stood by me, hand around my waist, and said flatly, Daniel, don't flatter yourself. The Liu and Zhou family invitations went out yesterday. Daniel pulled out his phone and opened the Foster family group chat, his face twisted as he saw the flood of messages asking about our broken engagement. He looked at me, stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief and a hint of shame. Emily Zhou, you! I cut him off, calling over the sales assistant. The gown's damaged. Send the compensation invoice to Mr. Foster. Let him pay for the mess he made. He's clearly got too much time and no manners. I'd completely lost interest. I changed out of the gown and left the boutique with Ryan. Daniel came after us. He grabbed my arm, his voice trembling with fury. Emily Zhou, who gave you permission to switch grooms? Have you two been sneaking around this whole time? I ripped my arm away and slapped him hard across the face. Daniel Foster, I'm nothing like you. I have dignity and principles. After we got into the car, Daniel kept calling my phone over and over. I blocked his number without hesitation. Out of sight, out of mind. I didn't expect that the very next day, Daniel Foster would show up at the Zhou residence, bringing not only his mother, but also Lana Han. After my mother passed away, the only ones left in the Zhou family were my grandmother and me. Grandma suffered from dementia. She didn't remember much, but she still remembered that Daniel had once saved her daughter. When she heard from Daniel that I was breaking off the engagement and planning to marry someone else, she was so furious she picked up her cane and tried to hit me. Lena immediately added fuel to the fire. Emily, the vice president loves you so much. You two have been together for 5 years, and now you suddenly say you won't marry him? How could you do that to him? Daniel's mother stood there with an air of arrogance. My son agreeing to marry you is your blessing. Don't take it for granted. You're almost 30. You think it's still easy to find someone now? And do you really think anyone would accept a woman who's already been in a 5-year relationship with my son? You think you're still pure? My temples throbbed with anger. Daniel knew perfectly well about Grandma's condition, and he still brought these people here to twist the truth and trigger her like this. He was beyond vile. When Daniel noticed my glare, he tried to play the good guy. I know you're still upset about Lana. How about this? I'll have her live separately after the wedding. I'll only visit the kid once a week. Would that make you happy? Before I could even speak, Grandma frowned. What kid? Lana beamed. Grandma, I had a baby with the vice president. Daniel's mother gently took Grandma's hand and smiled. Don't worry, Grandma Zhao. He's your great-grandson too. Once Emily gives birth to her own son, I'll love them both equally. Grandma's face changed instantly. The conciliatory look vanished. She grabbed her cane and started swinging. You heartless bastards. You want my granddaughter to raise your child and be a stepmother? Keep dreaming. You think saving my daughter earns you the right to walk all over us? Get out of my house. Don't you ever come back. I told Ryan Liu what happened. He arrived quickly, looking sharp in a suit, so formal I was caught off guard. He handed me a beautifully wrapped gift box, his cheeks slightly flushed. It's a dress I had custom made for you. Put it on. Let's go get our marriage license. I blinked, confused for a moment. Ryan gently held my hand and coaxed, Emily, Didn't Daniel say you still loved him? Let's go make it official. That way, we can be together openly, and I'll be able to move in to protect you. Isn't that right?" His words were persuasive, and although I felt something was a little off, he wasn't wrong. We were already preparing for the wedding. Getting the license now made perfect sense. With that in mind, I went to find Grandma and ask for the household registration book. But unexpectedly, Grandma still remembered what happened that morning. As soon as she saw me, she raised her cane and came at me. "You're still thinking of marrying that man after the way he treated you? Are you still my granddaughter? He practically smeared crap on your face." Dodging her cane, I quickly explained, "No, not him. I'm marrying Ryan Liu." Grandma froze. "Ryan Liu?" She lowered the cane, lifted her head as if remembering something inside. "That Liu boy." She looked at me and suddenly smiled. "If it's him, then it's fine. That's good, he finally got what he wanted." Though puzzled, I didn't ask more. She simply opened the safe and handed me the household book. "Go, be good to him." Ryan and I smoothly registered our marriage. Inside the civil affairs office, he held both of our marriage certificates in his hands. Ryan was grinning from ear to ear. He immediately took out his phone and posted photos of our marriage certificates on his social media, captioned, "Wife for life." I could genuinely feel his happiness, and for a moment, I was caught off guard. At that moment, I actually started to believe that this marriage wasn't just some arranged union. He really had feelings for me. On the way home, I asked Ryan how he got to know my grandmother. He held my hand gently and smiled. "Emily, after you went abroad, I used to visit your grandma at the Zhou house often. Naturally, we got close. My instincts told me there was more to the story, but before I could press further, my phone rang. Daniel Foster had gotten a new number and was calling me again. His voice was filled with fury. "Emily Zhou, how dare you go and marry another man behind my back?" I let out a cold laugh. "You dared to cheat behind mine and even had a child. I just got married. Why are you so dramatic about it?" He cursed under his breath, voice cracking with rage. "Don't forget, the Zhou family relies on Foster Corporation for most of its contracts. Without me, the Zhou group is done for. Prepare for bankruptcy." He slammed the phone down. I sneered. Funny how he reminded me, I had nearly forgotten. It was time for the Zhou group to pull out of Foster Corp anyway. Otherwise, once Ryan made a move, they wouldn't even have the shirts on their backs. Ryan Liu wasn't just some wealthy heir, he was a legend in Haicheng's business world. Known as China's version of the Wolf of Wall Street, he had single-handedly taken down 3 companies overnight. His business tactics were notoriously ruthless. Later, news revealed those 3 companies had all been running shady operations. Ryan, in a way, had purged the market of 3 toxic tumors. Thinking about that, I glanced over at the man in the driver's seat. His white suit was perfectly tailored, his fingers long and strong on the steering wheel, his sharp profile framed by elegant gold-rimmed glasses. He looked like someone fresh off a battlefield, with the calm satisfaction of a man who had just won a war. A true wolf in gentleman's clothing. Without thinking, I blurted, "Ryan Liu, you're so dangerously pure." The next day, I pulled all of Zhou Group's resources out of Foster Corp. Daniel demanded a ridiculous termination fee, clearly trying to put pressure on me. I responded by liquidating every available asset and paid the fee in full, down to the last cent. That same night, Ryan made his move. The Foster family was suddenly hit with a massive PR crisis. What was even more shocking was the financial chaos that followed. Someone had discovered a huge hole in their internal accounts. It turned out that Lana Han had secretly siphoned off large sums of company funds. Her younger brother had racked up enormous gambling debts in Macau, and Lana, desperate, had gambled with Foster's money hoping to win it back. She lost everything. Daniel went into a rage, smashing furniture all over the postpartum center. Someone filmed the entire meltdown and posted it online. Netizens were ruthless. "Serves him right, cheating scumbag. His mistress bled him dry. No surprise there, a perfect match made in hell. I'm selling all my shares. Don't want to end up like this loser, with nothing but socks." By morning, most of Foster Corp's employees had resigned. Partnering companies pulled their contracts. The stock price plummeted, bringing them to the brink of bankruptcy. The next day, as I stepped out, I ran into Daniel's mother at the gate. She was dressed in lavish designer clothing, wearing a false smile that screamed pretended grace. "Emily," she cooed, "you've always been the daughter-in-law I've approved of most. Why don't you let me help you get rid of that little vixen and give Daniel another chance?" I shook off her hand, raised my left hand, and showed her the massive diamond ring on my finger. I smiled. "Sorry, ma'am. I've found someone much better. You and your precious son can go ruin someone else's life." Her expression instantly twisted into fury. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? Our foster family has a proud military history. Even if we go bankrupt, we still have roots. My son won't have any trouble finding a better daughter-in-law than you." Her outburst gave me an idea. I turned around and reported Lana Hahn to the police for stealing my Hermes bags. When the police arrived at Daniel's villa for a search, I tagged along. He was in his room, drinking alone. Empty bottles littered the floor. When Daniel saw the police arrive, his expression darkened. But the moment he spotted me, his face lit up as if he'd seen salvation. "Emily, you came to see me?" he said eagerly. I took a step back, avoiding his touch. "Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just here to collect my belongings. The luxury items I left here are enough to buy a villa." Sure enough, based on the receipts and records I provided, the police quickly discovered that more than half of the items were missing. I looked at Daniel and said coldly, "These missing items are worth over 10 million yuan. You can either pay me back, or I'll let the police look into Lana Hahn." At the sound of her name, Daniel's anger exploded. He smashed the bottle in his hand and yelled, "Don't mention her. I was deceived by that woman." Then he turned back to me, eyes full of regret. "Emily, I made a mistake. I really did. Can we start over? It was all my fault. I was blind, I was impulsive, I was foolish. I know that now. I promise I'll never hurt you again. Please give me another chance." I didn't have the patience to hear his repentance. I tossed a compensation invoice in his face. "You have 3 days to wire the full amount to this account. If not, I'll have the police go straight to Lana Hahn." He called out after me, voice breaking, "Emily, I really was wrong. For the sake of the love we once had, forgive me. I had thought Daniel might have cared about Lana, even just a little. But I was wrong. He was utterly heartless." Unable to track down Lana's brother or recover the stolen funds, Daniel snapped. In a desperate attempt, he had Lana brought to a gambling den to pressure her. "Tell your brother to return the money," he warned, "or you'll pay the price." Lana trembled, crying on her knees. "My brother's already lost everything. I was afraid they'd hurt him, so I tried to help. Please, Daniel, I had no choice. I gave you a child. Please spare him. I'll do anything for you." But Daniel had lost all control. Instead of compassion, he punished her to send a message and demand answers. What happened next was cruel and traumatic. Though I will not recount the explicit details, Daniel used threats and humiliation to try to force Lana to admit where the money had gone. Lana, terrified and in pain, broke down completely. Eventually, Daniel, realizing she wouldn't talk, resorted to an even more twisted tactic. He brought in their infant child. The moment Lana saw him reaching toward the baby, her entire body trembled. Her voice shook as she cried out, "That's your child. How could you? Bookmark. How could you? Do you even realize what you're doing?" Lana Hahn sobbed uncontrollably, trembling from head to toe, her tears streaming down like rain. Eventually, under the pressure, she gave up her brother's whereabouts. "He's in Southeast Asia." She choked out and handed over his contact information. She truly believed he was broke and had fled abroad just to stay alive. But when Daniel Foster finally tracked down Lana's brother, the man was in the middle of playing hide and seek with over a dozen ladyboys. Gold chains worth tens of millions dangled around his neck. Daniel had him detained and forcibly returned to the country, but they only recovered about 1/3 of the missing funds. He didn't want Foster Corp to go bankrupt, so, unsurprisingly, he came looking for me, trying to win me back. In 5 years of dating, he had sent me flowers no more than a handful of times. But this time, he filled the entire entrance of the Zhao estate with roses. He brought my favorite pastries. He even held up an old "forgive me" card I once gave him, begging for another chance. "Emily," he pleaded, "I bought movie tickets. Come with me. Let's go together, just like before, okay?" Looking at him groveling, I didn't feel moved. I felt ridiculous. "Daniel Foster, It's not that you don't know how to love. You just never loved me, I said flatly. Leave. Late apologies are worth less than trash. When he realized I wasn't buying it, he dropped to his knees with a loud thud, begging earnestly. Emily, I was wrong. Please give me another chance, I'll make it up to you. I swear I will. I took the bouquet of roses and slammed it right into his face. Get out. Don't make me say it again. After he left, Ryan Liu showed me the surveillance video of Daniel torturing Lana in the casino. There was a tinge of jealousy in his tone as he cautiously said, Emily, please don't be fooled by him again. A man like him, if you give him your heart, he'll devour it, bones and all. I couldn't help but laugh, my eyes sparkling. We already have our marriage certificate. Are you still afraid I'll look back? Someone like him? Even if I never marry again in this life, I'd still never marry him. Ryan finally looked relieved. He pulled me into his arms, resting his head gently on my shoulder and whispering, hearing that, I can finally relax. The next day, a scandal exploded across the media. A video leaked of Daniel abusing Lana at the casino. Foster Corp was immediately investigated and shut down. All of their assets were seized. At the same time, Lana was found by police, partially paralyzed. Daniel Foster was arrested and charged with assault and coercion. When the authorities came to take him, his parents wailed hysterically. What sin have we committed to deserve this? Why is our fate so bitter? Their infant wailed in his mother's arms. I had no interest in any of it anymore. Because today was my wedding day. Ryan had chosen a venue filled with my favorite pink flowers, and a starry sky was projected above the hotel's ceiling. I walked down an aisle covered in red roses and reached out my hand to him, happiness glowing on my face. When the officiant asked if we were willing to spend our lives together, we looked at each other and smiled. I do, I said without hesitation. Grandma and the Liu family were sitting below the stage, beaming from ear to ear. Sometime after the wedding, I held our baby in my arms and asked Ryan, why did you agree to marry me? His expression turned slightly indignant. He clenched his teeth, clearly frustrated. I've liked you since we were kids. How did you not know that? I blinked in surprise. I didn't. I blurted out. Mrs. Liu chuckled as she took the baby from my arms. It's no surprise you didn't. This boy cried every day in middle school wanting to date you. Your mom and I kept it from you. That's why we sent you both abroad, to stop you from falling in love too early. Ryan gave his mother a wounded look. I almost lost my wife because of that. I burst into tears from laughing and threw myself into his arms. How could you? I whispered. Your wife has always been right here.